Hello everyone. Today I'm going to make a different recipe to the one that we should have been making this week. Since rice is quite hard to get, I've decided not to do cheesy rice balls, but something still with some grated cheese. I know all you foodies love a bit of cheese. I've also got some little cubes of butter. I have got some, we always like to put our hands in here and have a good play around with the scoop flour we've got in there. And today we want it to rise, so it's, that's right, self-raising flour today. I have peeled and taken the middle, the core, out of an apple. I've just got half of the apple here. And I've also got some milk. And my equipment I need a round cutter, I need a fork, and I need a knife. Because today I'm going to show you how to make cheese and apple scones. So, first of all, get my mixing bowl. And we need, if you're weighing with scales, you need 100 grams. I will put the recipe on my Facebook page as well, so if you want to have a look at that, it'll be there later. If you've got scoops, these are our 1/3 of a cup scoops again, and for the flour, we want to whoosh the top, and we want 2 of those, nice and flat. So that's 100 grams if you're weighing. And we're going to keep the rest of the flour, because we're going to have to do some dusting later on. So I've got my flour in there. Now I'm going to put my butter in as well. Okay, put the little cubes of butter. So I've cut them up already, so they're nice and small, because now I'm going to do some tickling once again. So hands in, and remember when we're tickling, we're lifting our hands out of the flour, we're squashing the butter together. We're trying to make all that butter break up and disappear so that we've got a nice bowl of breadcrumb, sort of looks like breadcrumbs, and we sometimes say it looks a bit like a sandy beach, don't we? So rubbing your hands and your fingers together, every time you go back in, get a bit more flour so you don't get too sticky, okay? Takes a little bit of time, be patient, make sure it's all rubbed in nicely. Okay, so when it's done, it should look nice and just really like flour. You can see a few tiny little lumps, but nothing big. Okay, I'm now going to take some of my cheese, but I need to leave some in the bowl. I'm going to take a big pinch. So maybe about half of it. And in my bowl, I've got 35 grams of grated cheese. So I'm going to put half of it in there, and I'm going to use my fork to mix that in. Okay, now I know I've done it because my cheese is nice and floury and it's all coated. Put that to one side for a minute, because now I need to take my apple, hold it still on my mat, and using my knife, I'm going to probably need to saw the apple because it's quite hard to cut an apple. So holding it still, I'm going to saw backwards and forwards, and I'm going to chop my apple into little pieces, similar size to what we had the butter in before. And when they're cut, they can go in your bowl as well. So I'm going to keep going. This apple's not too crunchy, so it's easy to cut this one. It depends which type you get. Any eating apple will do. Don't get the Granny Smith, they're a bit too sour for this. So I'm slicing it first, and then I'm chopping. Alright, and then all my pieces can go in there. And then I'm going to give it another mix with my fork. Okay. Now for the milk. Now you know what happens with milk or water when we add it? It makes everything all wet and stick together. So we're going to need some of this, but we might not need all of it. So I'm going to add a little bit. I've got 45 millilitres of milk, but I might not need it all. So I'm going to mix half of it in. And it's still a little bit dry, so I'm going to add a bit more. Not too much because I don't want it too sticky. Okay, now it's starting to clump together. And what I'm going to do now is take out my fork and I'm going to see with my hands whether I can get it gently to stick together. And look, it's starting already to stick together. And like I did with the jammy biscuits, if you watch that video, if we use our dough to wipe around the bottom of the bowl, we'll get all of it stuck together. And look, I have left some milk in there because it's already sticky enough. We don't want it soaking, so we're just going to leave it like that. Okay, now on our mat, a little bit of flour. And we don't need a rolling pin today, because all we're going to do with our dough is we're just going to use our hands to press it down. And once we've got it to about 2 centimetres thick, grown-ups can help you with that, then we're going to take our round cutter, any size you like. I've taken one of my smaller ones for this because I want to make more scones. And I'm going to cut out, and do you see how thick that is? When I've cut it, I'm going to put it on my tray. I'm going to cut another one out, and I can hear the crunch of the apple as my cutter goes through. So these are going to be delicious. They're going to be like sweet and savoury. And when I've made them, and they're nice and warm, some butter, or even a little bit of chutney, like mango chutney or something like that, would be very nice. So let's flatten that out again. I've gathered my dough back up because I needed to get another one out. Cut another one. So how many have I got now? So far I've got 1, 2, 3. Depends how thick you make them as to how many you're going to get. You don't want them like biscuits though, so not too thin. Okay, now that last one, I actually don't even really need the cutter. I'm just going to pop it on like that. Okay, so there I've got my 4 scones. Now I'm going to just take my pastry brush, which I didn't think I was going to need, but I'm going to need a pastry brush, aren't I, for this? I'm going to brush a little bit of milk on top of each one of my leftover milk, and then, do you remember how we left some cheese in here? I'm going to get a little bit of cheese and I'm going to put some on top of each scone, like a little hat. There we go. There we go. Pop some on each one. Whoa, I like them nice and cheesy. And when it cooks and it goes all crispy. Now as I'm doing this, behind me, my oven's heating up. I've got that on at 200 degrees, so it's got to get nice and hot. It's been on for a while, since before we started cooking, so that when it goes in, it's already hot enough. Okay, so there we go, making sure all the scones have got about the same amount of cheese on top. We do like cheese in our house, so make sure there's lots. There we go. And that is all we need to do. So they're going to go into the oven now to cook. I'd start off with 10 to 12 minutes and check them. They'll rise up a little bit. The cheese will melt and go golden, and you'll be able to tell they'll just be a nice light golden brown. Now today I've got nothing else to do to these, so when they're finished, I'll take a photo and I'll put it on my Facebook page. And I would really love it if you guys could also take some photos when you're finished and tell me what you think of your cheese and apple scones. Have a good day, everybody. Bye for now.